Hi, I'm Garrett, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little something I'd like to change in the world, or what my essay number 4 was about, and that's this vague general topic of socialism and what socialism is. Socialism is described as a political movement in which citizens of a relative country own all factors of production at an equal rate in creating the GDP or gross domestic product of a country, meaning that in the eyes of the government, everyone sits and is valued at an equal level to one another. Let's just say that we have a doctor here. That would be equal to, let's just say, a janitor. In the eyes of the government in a socialist ran country, everyone is equal, and that's what they're shooting for most. When taking a look at some of the biggest downfalls in the past century, we have three major wars: World War II, the Cold War, and the Vietnamese War. All three wars, which have run with four countries, all run on socialist ideologies, that including Nazi Germany and Hitler, the USSR and Cuba with Fidel Castro, and the Vietnamese War, all of which 4 out of 4 times have failed due to political protests from its citizens, as well as losing wars and wars against the rest of the world and countries like our own. 4 out of 4 times, proving which that socialism in the end has no real longevity and lasting in a country back then, meaning that it really would not last in a country like ours in modern day standpoint. Moving on, we have this concept of greed. Greed is one of the biggest reasons and factors in which I think socialism does not work and why it didn't work in Russia during the 1960s. Here we have $2. $2 during the 1960s was equivalent to what that of a New York City bus driver made at the time on a regular basis every day. $2. This was also equivalent to 2 Russian rubles. The only difference being that 2 Russian rubles at the time was that of which the average salary of which what a doctor made on a daily basis in Russia during the time. Now, eventually, being good at first, the Soviet Union thought they were doing great until they realized that the lawyers, doctors, and professionals of their country were actually very unhappy and felt very undervalued, thus causing this huge political protest and uproar from its citizens and these professionals in Russia. This turning into a huge debate and huge thing that led to the downfall of the biggest socialist ran country we've seen up to date as the USSR, and it collapsing due to this political protest from these professionals and whatnot in war, and was the biggest downfall we've seen and led them into becoming what's known as and what we see today as Russia, furthermore proving that socialism has no real longevity. Even if we're not at war, we'll be at war with citizens and between each other. The American dream is a concept that many Americans hold dear to the heart, like myself, and it's this concept that's founded upon the idea of the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness in our Constitution is something that can be understood in different ways, but my biggest way is that I see it as working to achieve something you want in life. That way you can get something you want in life. And, if that means working to get that house, start that family, move to the suburbs, have a car to drive in the driveway, have money in the bank. Socialism, in a sense, destroys this concept by taking what you make and dispersing it amongst citizens amongst citizens within your country, making everyone at an equal rate, thus leaving you feeling very undervalued, no money in the bank, and probably not in the house you want to live in, as well as not driving the car you want to drive, and just feeling very unhappy. The way I see it, socialism can lead to greed of which can be one of the biggest downfalls and causes of a collapse of government. It could also possibly lead us into war within our own country as well as with other countries that don't like socialism. And it could also lead to the disruption of the American dream and the way we see it. In my opinion, this is why socialism as a whole does not and will not work for a country like our own.